So in this video, I want to go over a short history of where emotional freedom technique and tapping on acupuncture points came from, at least in modern times. And from now on, I'll just shorten the name to EFT or tapping to refer to this methodology. Now, the fancy definition for EFT is that it is an energy meridian-based emotional, mental, and physical therapy. And by energy meridian, I mean EFT uses the same channels of energy that flow through the body that acupuncture uses in traditional Chinese medicine. Now, I'm not a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine, nor have I studied the acupuncture healing system, but I know EFT works anyway. I've seen it work in my own life. I've seen it work in the lives of my clients that I teach this to. And if you've watched the first EFT video, then you know some of the stunning research that proves this really works. So you don't even have to be a master acupuncturist. You don't even have to believe that this works. It just works anyway. Now, the basis for tapping comes from the work of the brilliant psychologist Dr. Roger Callahan. And as many amazing discoveries happened, this tapping system was discovered by accident. Now, back in the early 1980s, I believe it was, Dr. Callahan was working with a patient who had a terrible fear of water known as hydrophobia. Now, this woman's hydrophobia was so severe she would get a panic attack when it rained. And he was using a very common therapeutic method to desensitize a fear. And I believe they were at his home office, and he had her looking through the sliding glass door at a swimming pool, which of course is filled with water. Now, she would have panic attacks around just anything around water. And so in this therapy session, Dr. Callahan was having her move towards the sliding glass door, which of course she's moving closer to the pool of water, have her relax, release her fears, move her closer to the door. Have her release her fears, relax some more, move her closer to the door. All the time, getting her to release her fears and relax, moving her closer and closer. As she's getting super close to the door, to the sliding glass door, and therefore the pool, she suddenly said to Dr. Callahan, "I feel like I'm going to throw up. I'm going to vomit." Now, Dr. Callahan knew a little bit about Chinese medicine. He knew a little bit about acupuncture. And he knew that the stomach energy meridians were right underneath the eye. And since he didn't have any acupuncture needles, nor did he probably know how to use them, he got her to use acupressure, which is either pressing and holding the acupuncture point or tapping on the point. So he had her tap on those stomach meridian points underneath the eye to get rid of her nausea. And when she was done, she tapped on it for a little bit. When she was feeling better, she also found that her fear of water was gone too. Now, a little bit about acupressure, which is using pressure or tapping to stimulate the acupuncture points around your body. As I mentioned in the first video, you may already be familiar with a few of these acupressure points, even if you didn't know it. The most famous one is right by your thumb, right here. You press into this. Maybe somebody's told you if you have a headache, or maybe pain in the body somewhere, press on this. This is the acupuncture point to relieve pain. Or maybe if you've ever gone on a boat, maybe know somebody has you go on a harbor cruise, a midnight sunset cruise, or a fishing trip. You go to the drugstore and get that wristband, which has a little bead which presses into the acupressure point to calm nausea in the wrist. So not only can acupressure and tapping release negative emotions, as they are a disruption of the body's energy system, but also some physical problems responded well to acupressure and tapping, meaning that some physical problems also have a disruption in the energy system of the body, which is what traditional Chinese medicine has been saying for 5,000 years. So getting back to Dr. Callahan, after this accidental discovery with his fear of water client, he started exploring this new field of what came to be known as energy meridian-based psychotherapy. And Dr. Callahan went on to create thought field therapy, or TFT, which was tapping all these different energy points, all these different algorithms around the face, around the head, around the body for different issues, different things somebody might be dealing with. There were different algorithms, different patterns for each issue. So the person that had a simple, maybe emotional upset, a little bit of stress, would tap these 3 points. Or a person who has an addictive craving like smoking would tap these different sequence of points. Or maybe an old trauma was coming up, would tap a whole different set of tapping points. And he was getting mind-blowing results. Well, now enter Gary Craig. About 10 years later, Gary Craig studies TFT in the early 1990s with Dr. Callahan. Now, Gary Craig is a neuro-linguistic programming master practitioner, NLP. He's also a Stanford graduated engineer. And Gary Craig said, why are we trying to figure out all these specific energy meridians to tap on? Why don't we just make it really easy, really simple, and just tap on the main points? And if there's no disruption, then there's nothing to release. It's sort of like if you have 6 big trash cans, but you don't know which one actually has trash in them, just take them all out to the street, let them be emptied by the trash truck, and then if there's nothing in a trash can, so what? No harm, no foul. And the trash cans that need to get emptied. So Gary Craig came up with an acupressure methodology he called emotional freedom technique, or EFT, also known as tapping. And this system uses 13 different energy meridian points. And you may be familiar with these points: top of the head, right by the edge of the eyebrow, either side of the eye, underneath the nose, chin line, right by the collarbone here, underneath the arm, kind of the cryo point, and then the gamut point. And in Gary Craig's original EFT system, you would add in positive affirmations and then do some bilateral stimulation with rolling your eyes in different directions and to balance the brain and lock in the changes. Now, what was brilliant about Gary Craig is he used that Stanford engineering degree and came up with a method of tapping so that not only did things clear up faster, but you didn't have to study and memorize these difficult and different algorithms and tapping sequences from TFT. Now enter Sylvia Hartman, who studied behavioral biology and then energy healing techniques. And she said that healing from acupressure and tapping didn't depend on saying the right affirmations at the right time, and didn't depend on muscle testing or rolling the eyes in a certain way or doing any of these things. She thought that was all window dressing. And she developed emotional EFT that didn't use any of those techniques, and she got amazing results. All right, moving on to Tapas Fleming. Tapas, or maybe it's Tapas Fleming, she's an acupuncturist, and she came up with something called Tapas Acupressure Technique, TAT. Now, in traditional Chinese medicine, in the theory of traditional Chinese medicine, all the acupuncture meridians join and enters the brain at this point that's just above the inner corner of each eye, just kind of by the eyebrow right there. The first point of the bladder channel. The bladder meridian is the center of the forehead. So you kind of want to tap on or just push into those 3 points. These 3 points, third eye spot and then by the edges of the eyebrow. And she touched these 3 points all at once. And then she had one hand rest on the back of the head. And the theory being that TAT enables a flow of energy from these 2 energy centers that allows us to change the way past memories are stored in the mind and create a positive future. And Tapas Fleming specialized in using acupuncture for allergies and found that this acupressure points really helped and helped release stuck emotions. Not only help with allergies, but help with stuck emotions. All right, that's TAT. So now enter Be Set Free Fast, BSFF, and Dr. Larry Nims, who is classically trained psychologist. And what is fascinating about his system is that he found that you didn't even have to actually tap. You could just imagine tapping. And the acupuncture meridian points, if you just imagine that, imagine feeling tapping on it, and you get the same exact results. Well, this goes back to that concept that your subconscious mind doesn't know the difference between a real experience and one that is vividly imagined, and you can change your physiology through thought alone. This is also, Chinese medicine model says that you move qi in your system by thinking about it too. So he created this method where you have a keyword, a code word like freedom or victory or whatever it is, and you set this all up through an installation you say in your unconscious mind every time you use this code word, whether you say it or write it or even think about it, and you'll immediately remove the problem that is there and the roots of it as well. And it became very, very complex system, but it was no doubt very effective. But I don't think this method ever really caught on because there's quicker techniques out there using this energy psychology methodologies. And now this leads us to faster EFT, which is Robert Smith's method. And he theorized that you didn't have to tap on those 13 different points of Gary Craig's original EFT. He thought you only needed 5. So with faster EFT, go on to the side of the eyebrow, on the corner of the eye, underneath the eye, on the collarbone, and then you squeeze or slap the wrist. And then the squeezing and slapping the wrist, you grab about 4 or 5 different acupuncture meridians and run through those, points right there at the wrist. So person would think of the issue that they like to resolve, and then they tap on those 5 points: eyebrow, side of the eye, collarbone, and then the holding of the wrist or tapping on the wrist. And that's faster EFT. A lot of success with faster EFT. Now, this leads us to the model I want to show you. And I feel this model of EFT takes the best of the best as a slight variation on traditional EFT as developed by Gary Craig that you'll see out in the world if you're watching YouTube videos or reading books about this, because we're going to focus on acupuncture points specifically related to reducing anxiety. So in the next video, I'm going to teach EFT for anxiety, and then we'll run it a couple of times. We'll actually do a session. I'll show you how to move through an actual EFT session using specific points, acupuncture points related to anxiety. And then the video after that, I'll even show you a really great tapping technique using only your fingers.